Here is a book, The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It's a rather short book. It's quite thin, as you can see. Though it is not necessarily a short read, I'll explain that in a while. Let me first talk about the author, C.S. Lewis. He's a man I really respect. He's a very devout Christian, actually, and that fact is very visible in his life, and it also shines through in his work. Most of his work is deeply religious. His book, Miracles, as well as this one, really go deep into his ideas about God and man's relation with God. He's made several speeches in defense of his religious beliefs, and they were all compiled into one book called Mere Christianity. It's a very famous work. But perhaps his most famous literary work is his fantasy fiction series, The Chronicles of Narnia, which I'm sure everyone has at least heard about, or you must have watched the movies at the very least. But even there, for those who don't know, the whole Narnia series as a whole, and many of the characters are actually allegories to biblical stories and biblical personalities. But it's packaged in such a way that even the irreligious section of society can consume it and enjoy it. And this book, although it is, once again, it is 100% Christian work, but I wouldn't say it's written only for Christians. It will not hurt anybody's sentiments or anything, just that you may not understand a few of the references here and there, but it's not going to offend anyone. If anything, it caused some stir in the Christian church when it came out. But then again, it was a period of time where if you said something was Christian, if you claimed that this was Christian, and if it was not in the Bible, then it used to cause some discussion. But for the modern audience and for modern Christians who are a lot more tolerant, it should not cause any kind of offense at all. The story or the plot itself is not very complicated. It's a very basic, run-of-the-mill story about a young man who struggles with his Christian faith, and that's about it. That's the whole story right there. What actually makes the book interesting is the way it's been written. You see, the reader never actually gets to meet the protagonist of the story. Okay, and we receive very minimal details about him, and we know almost nothing about him, in fact, throughout the story. And that's because the story is actually conveyed to us in the form of a series of letters. Okay, 31 letters to be precise, written by one of Satan's evil agents, okay, whose name is Screwtape. That's where the title comes from, the Screwtape letters. All these letters are written by this devil's agent to his nephew. You see, this nephew, whose name is Wormwood, has been assigned the task of messing with the spirituality of a particular young man who, as I said, we actually never get to meet him. These agents of the devil are tasked with preventing humans from reaching heaven, basically. That's their objective. And Wormwood is a relatively inexperienced agent, so he constantly seeks support and advice from his uncle, Screwtape, who is very happy to oblige. And that's the content of these letters. The entire book is basically the collection of letters that Screwtape has written to his nephew. We actually get to see only one side of the conversation. We see what Screwtape has written. We don't get to read Wormwood's replies or anything. These all the letters are written in a very condescending and egotistical way, and it makes it rather funny to the person who's reading it from a third perspective. And I wouldn't label this as a comedy as such, but there is a humorous nerve running all the way through the book, right from the preface until the very end. It's very evident. It is only 100 pages or so. Like I said, it's very short. It's about one afternoon's worth of reading, I suppose. But I took close to a week to finish the book because it is very rich in content. After reading one or two letters out of the 31 Just after one or two, I would need to go for a walk and enjoy the taste of the new ideas and thoughts that are going through my mind. Um, I feel like that would be how many people would choose to read it. I do recommend the book, especially if you're Christian. It provides a very intelligent, very different perspective about the concepts of sin and salvation and trial and temptation. Good book. I enjoyed it. That's about it. Thank you for listening.